The Korean War was a proxy war that lasted between 1950 to 1953. A proxy war is a conflict between two states where neither state directly attacks the other. This war was financed by the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Korea was a country that had been controlled by the Japanese from 1910 until the end of the World War II. When the World War II ended and the Japanese were defeated, the Soviets and Americans agreed to divide the country into two, where the North will be controlled by the Soviet Union and the South by the United States. This division was done over the 38th parallel. The North had a communist ideology, while the South had a capitalist ideology. In 1948, the United Nations organized elections with the purpose of unifying the country, but the Soviet Union prohibited the participation to the zone that they had in control, which made the division even stronger. Each power elected one leader. The United States chose Syngman Rhee to rule the South, and the Soviets chose Kim Il-sung, by the way the grandfather of Kim Jong-un, to rule the North. After the winning of communism in China in 1949, both China and the Soviet Union supported the North. Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, took advantage of this, and in order to gain more territory in Asia, in the 25th of July of 1950, he approved an attack to the South Korean territory, which was the first important armed conflict of the Cold War. The South Koreans were pushed back to a small part at the south of the peninsula. The United States and the United Nations then responded and sent an army under the control of General MacArthur to push back the North Koreans. This was called the Battle of Incheon. The United Nations troops pushed back the North Koreans to the 38th parallel, but the idea of a unified nation was closer, so the North Koreans kept pushing the North Koreans further than the 38th parallel. MacArthur was told to be very cautious with the Chinese border, but he ignored it, and they pushed the North Koreans too close to China. China saw this as a threat, because if the United States controlled all Korea, they would eventually declare war to China. The 19th of October of 1950, the Chinese, supported by the Soviets, started an attack that pushed the United Nations troops back to the 38th parallel. During the rest of the war, there were small changes in the Korean territory and long peace negotiations. In 1953, the war ended with an armistice that restored the border between both Koreas. An armistice is a temporary suspension of hostilities by agreement of the warring parties, and a demilitarized region along the 38th parallel was established.